held by Deloitte and Touche. Now, government has reviewed the contents of this audit report prepared by Deloitte and Touche into the operations of the National Cathedral Secretariat. The report, which was commissioned by the National Cathedral Secretariat, covered the period between 31st December 2021 and 31st December 2023. I must stress that another report dated 31st December 2020 has also come to our attention. Now, these reports reveal a disturbing pattern of financial irregularities, procurement breaches, unsupported expenditures, and a general lack of due process. From unexplained payments to discrepancies in contract values, weak internal controls, and questionable governance practices, the National Cathedral project clearly strayed far from the principles of accountability and fiscal discipline. Now, before delving into the details of the audit report, it bears noting that available evidence indicates that, contrary to the widely held view that total payments and commitments to the National Cathedral project amounts to $58 million so far, there is actually an additional outstanding payment of $39 million due the contractor. Now, when added up, this brings the total costs incurred so far for the whole that sits at the site of the project to $97 million. Also, due to the lopsided nature of the contract, additional costs continue to accrue daily, despite the cessation of work on the project since March 2023. Now, I want to take you through some of the findings contained in the audit report, because there are those who have claimed that this audit report in question exonerates some persons. Now, let me touch on discrepancies in consultancy fees paid to Sir David Ajayi and Associates Limited. The audit report reveals that there were troubling discrepancies in consultancy fees paid to Sir David Ajayi and Associates Limited for the mobilization and design of the National Cathedral of Ghana. Now, while the Office of the President confirms a total payment of 113,040,564 cedis only, the firm, that is Sir David Ajayi and Associates Limited, reports having received 117,972,656 Ghana cedis, which gives a variance of 4.9 million Ghana cedis, which as of now remains unexplained. Payment records show that 87,938,750 cedis was paid by the Ministry of Finance between 26 September 2018 and 25 November 2019. Subsequently, the Office of the President made two payments, one which was 29,664,845.29 Ghana cedis on 19 February 2021, and another 369,060 Ghana cedis on 5th March 2021, bringing the presidency's total contribution to 30,033,906 Ghana cedis. Combined, these payments amount to 117,972,656 Ghana cedis received by the firm. Variations in contract amounts with Rebadi JV. The formal executed agreement with Rebadi JV puts the contract sum at $261,965,660 million US, which is exclusive of taxes and levies. However, the Office of the President confirms a higher figure of $286,465,760 660 US dollars, which gives a difference of $24.5 million from the officially signed agreement. Additionally, the progress status report as of August 2024 quotes a contract sum of $268,500,000 US dollars, while interim payment certificates or IPCs submitted for payment estimates the final contract value at $283,230,489 US dollars. These inconsistent figures, spanning from the legally binding agreement to the reported progress and payment claims, point to a lack of coherence and clarity in the contract administration and project cost control. Now, differences in payments and outstanding amounts owed to the Nehemiah Group. The audit also draws attention to notable discrepancies in the financial transactions between the government of Ghana and the Nehemiah Group, a consultant on the National Cathedral project. According to the Office of the President, a total of $4,281,702.59 US dollars has been paid to the Nehemiah Group. However, the Nehemiah Group confirms receiving $4,341,702.59 US dollars, indicating a difference of $60,000 US dollars that remains unaccounted for. More concerning is the wide variation in the amounts both parties claim are outstanding. While the Office of the President indicates an outstanding balance of $1,851,528 US dollars, the Nehemiah Group states that only $155,616.23 US dollars remains unpaid, a difference of nearly $1.7 million US dollars. These inconsistencies point to significant lapses in contract and payment reconciliation processes, and they call for immediate investigation to uphold transparency and fiscal responsibility. Procurement irregularities and discrepancies in contract sums in relation to Sir David Ajayi and Associates. The audit report also uncovers serious procurement irregularities in the engagement of Sir David Ajayi and Associates Limited as lead consultant for the National Cathedral project. Between 26 September 2018 and 7 June 2019, a total of 15,738,750 Ghana cedis was paid to Sir David Ajayi well before the formal agreement was signed on 20th August 2019. This payment also preceded the approval of the contract sum of 5,850,000 Ghana cedis by the Public Procurement Authority, raising red flags about non-compliance with established procurement protocols. Furthermore, the appointment of the firm was done through sole sourcing, a method that demands strict justification and prior approval under Ghana's procurement laws. These actions represent a clear breach of procurement procedures as outlined in Section 41 and 2 of the Public Procurement Act 2003, Act 663, as amended by Act 914, and raise serious concerns about transparency, value for money, and adherence to due process in the award and execution of public contracts. Further concerns arise from the audit findings regarding the contract with Sir David Ajayi and Associates Limited for the National Cathedral project. First, portions of the total contract value, specifically the mobilization fee of $1.5 million and a use aftercare component of $1,187,500 US dollars, were included in the payment schedule but lack any detailed breakdown or explanation for their composition, raising questions about the basis and justification for these sums. Moreover, there is a discrepancy of $861,000 US dollars in the mobilization fee figures. while the Office of the President confirms a payment of only $89,000. A letter from Sir David Ajayi and Associates, dated 13th August 2020, states that $950,000 was received as mobilization, a gap that requires urgent clarification. Additionally, David Ajayi is reported to have undertaken extra work estimated at $12,430,221 under variation orders 1, 2, and 3, covering major design changes, including a 350-seater restaurant, a museum extension, and a Bible museum. However, these additions were not captured in the original signed contract, indicating a failure to formally regularize significant scope changes before making payments regarding these additions. Questionable payments and overlapping roles involving the Nehemiah Group and Associates. The audit exposes troubling findings concerning the contractual relationship with the Nehemiah Group, represented by Mr. Karisamis and other associated entities. The agreement between the National Cathedral Secretariat and the Nehemiah Group, initially signed for a one-year term beginning 9th March 2020, was subject to renewal on agreements of the parties. The renewal was never done. Despite this, payments of the Nehemiah Group continued, amounting to $523,521, a clear violation of contract governance protocols. Furthermore, the Nehemiah Group confirmed receiving $110,630.56 for organizing fundraising events in Houston and New York, all in the United States, purportedly aimed at securing support from external investors. Strangely, these events yielded no tangible results in terms of donations or investment, raising serious concerns about the prudence of this expenditure and the absence of performance-based accountability. Even more troubling is the overlap in responsibilities and associated costs between the Nehemiah Group and Gov't Maltby, a subcontractor. Although the Nehemiah Group was assigned coordination and oversight roles during phase 1 of the project, Gov't Maltby was separately contracted for the same project management and coordination services at a cost of $592,500. This figure represents approximately 87% of the total $675,000 paid to the Nehemiah Group over the same period, indicating a clear case of paying two entities for the same work where it was unclear which of them was actually doing the work and which was taking government money for free. This apparent lack of clarity and delineation of responsibilities reflects poorly on project oversight and resource management. Additionally, reimbursable expenses amounting to $24,498.17 were paid to the Nehemiah Group for items completely unrelated to construction oversight. These include costs that fall outside the intended scope of their engagement, further compounding concerns over inefficiency, a lack of accountability, and the effective use of public resources on this project. Unsubstantiated loan transaction with JNS Talent Center Limited. The audit report also highlights a deeply concerning financial transaction involving JNS Talent Center Limited, a company owned by Reverend Kusi Boateng, a member of the National Cathedral Board of Trustees. A letter dated 26 August 2021 from the Executive Director of the National Cathedral Secretariat requested a loan of 2.6 million Ghana cedis from JNS Talent Center. However, no loan agreement was cited to establish the terms, conditions, interest rates, or repayment obligations of the facility. Despite this glaring omission, the amount was subsequently repaid to JNS Talent Center Limited using project funds. The absence of a formal agreement raises serious red flags regarding transparency, due diligence, and potential conflict of interest. Let me turn attention to irregularities in donation records documentation, and internal controls. The audit report was also, the audit report has also revealed worrying administrative and financial irregularities surrounding donations, documentation, and internal governance at the National Cathedral Secretariat. Notably, a total of 38,294,693 Ghana cedis in mobile money transactions remain unreconciled due to failed or unsuccessful transfers. These transactions could not be validated with any external party, casting significant doubts on the reliability of reported donation figures and the integrity of the donation management system. Furthermore, inconsistencies were identified in the 2021 records of donations received through the short code and Momo Pay ID platforms. The trial balance showed a variance of 42,791 Ghana cedis for short code receipts and 72,944 Ghana cedis for Momo Pay ID receipts when compared to the corresponding donation schedules. Notably, no such records were made available for 2022 and 2023, raising questions about the continuity of record keeping and transparency. In addition, lapses in internal controls were identified. The oath of secrecy documents required of procurement committee members was neither signed nor dated, containing only the names of members, a clear deviation from standard corporate governance practices. Equally troubling is the failure of management to produce supporting documents for several transactions, including board secretary expenses, office costs, and accommodation for a symposium hosted by the Biblical Museum of Africa. Out of a total of 949,847 Ghana cedis, an amount of 292,681 Ghana cedis remains unsupported. Unsupported expenditures and weak financial oversight in financial year 2022. The audit report for the 2022 financial year uncovers a troubling pattern of poor accounting practices, unsupported expenditures, and lapses in financial oversight at the National Cathedral Secretariat. A key example involves accommodation payments from Mr. Kari Samis, who was lodged at the Movenpick Hotel from 16th to 28th February 2022 at a cost of 18,500 Ghana cedis. However, only 4,976 Ghana cedis was recorded in the books, with no documentation accounting for the remaining 13,524 Ghana cedis, which was reportedly a refund issued by the hotel but not traceable in the financial records. Additionally, a trip to the United States by Dr. Paul Opoku Mensah and Reverend Kusi Boateng cost a total of 28,433.60 Ghana cedis, drawn from the Fidelity USD account on 12 October 2022. Strangely, despite this prepayment, a separate approval of $20,504.95 for the same trip was later granted by the Chief of Staff on 18th October 2022, raising concerns about duplicated approvals and a lack of coordination in financial planning. Further issues include payments totaling $17,000 made under accountable interest without supporting documentation, covering hotel accommodation, which was $15,000, internal transportation of $1,000, and incidentals of another $1,000 for two unnamed officials. The absence of receipts or accountability for these funds suggests weak internal controls. Moreover, a memo from the head of operations authorized 20,000 Ghana cedis for payments to bloggers and media houses. However, there was no evidence of approval from the Director of Finance and Administration. While 14,700 Ghana cedis was disbursed, no documentation exists to confirm whether the remaining 5,300 Ghana cedis was refunded. Lastly, the Secretariat paid 117,180 Ghana cedis, equivalent to $18,000 US at a rate of 6.51 Ghana cedis at the time to the board secretary in January 2022 to rent accommodation. Yet again, there was a lack of supporting documentation to substantiate the purpose, duration, or approval basis for this payment. Non-compliance with the law in the composition of the procurement committee. The audit report revealed that the National Cathedral of Ghana project violated Section 20 and the first schedule, that is Category B, of the Public Procurement Act 2023, Act 663, as amended by Act 914, in the establishment of its procurement committee. The committee, as constituted, failed to meet the legally mandated composition, including the absence of the key statutory members required by law. In addition, the roles of chairperson and secretary were improperly designated, contrary to the clear provisions of the Act. This non-compliance undermines the legitimacy of documentation of procurement decisions taken by the committee and raises serious questions about the integrity and legality of the procurement processes executed under its authority. Now, in view of the above, which rock the very foundation of the project and the work of the secretariat and raise serious questions about the use of public funds, President John Dramani Mahama has directed that the following steps be taken. 1. The National Cathedral Secretariat, which used to operate from here at the presidency, stands dissolved as of 1st May 2025. Now, the National Cathedral Ghana was registered as limited by guarantee. In view of that, the Attorney General has been directed to take legal steps to ensure the dissolution of the Board of Trustees, and we expect that to be done in the coming days. Now, 3, the President has ordered that in the interest of transparency and accountability, the Deloitte and Touche audit reports will be published immediately after this briefing. So we will share copies with you, media men present, and we'll also put it out on various portals and social media handles so that the public can access it and review the contents for themselves and see whether the claims that some individuals have been exonerated is borne out by the contents of the report. Now, despite the damning findings contained in the Deloitte audit report, it does not cover the full scope of operations of the National Cathedral Secretariat and the project itself. The Auditor General has therefore been requested to commission a forensic audit into the National Cathedral project and the activities of the Secretariat. Now, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice has also been asked to take lawful steps to ensure the termination of the contract to prevent further costs and losses to the state. As I indicated, because of how lopsided the contract is, even as the contractor has ceased work at the site from March 2023 to date, he still continues to accrue payments. And we find that this will impose significant costs on the state. And therefore, President Mahama has ordered the Attorney General to take legal steps to terminate this lopsided contract so that we save on cost that will accrue to the state. Now, after the forensic report, after the forensic audit, decisive action will be taken regarding any impropriety determined and the future of the project itself. I must indicate that the National Cathedral project is one of the many cases being investigated under the oral initiative. And once the forensic audit findings become available, they will add onto the body of evidence that will be looked into. And based on the determination that is made in terms of any act of impropriety, persons responsible will be held accountable. Now, I thank you for your attention.